I'm Christopher Berman. I'm the Network Engagement Manager for the Sustainable Business Network. Thank you, everyone, for showing so much interest. 120 people have registered to participate in this Zoom session, where we're going to talk about electrifying your business and how to save money by making the switch. Now, obviously, we're facing a climate chaos and at the same time, ever increasing power prices. And we need to find solutions to be a bit more resilient, a bit cleaner, a bit more energy efficient, and finding ways to overcome any barriers that can be in the way to make it happen, to electrify your business, so to make it cheaper for everyone and cleaner. In order to go through that, we've got some great speakers lined up today, specialists in their fields. But before we get into that, allow me to clear the space and ground ourselves. I'm going to open up with a little karakia. Tutawa mai I runga, tutawa mai I raro, tutawa mai I roto, tutawa mai I waho, kia tō ai, te mauri tū, te mori ora, ki te katoa, homi e, huie, tai kie. Right. So at the Sustainable Business Network, we started a conversation with Ika, who supported us with the idea to develop a series of events, a series of information, and a directory to help SMEs to embrace electrification. And so we're very thankful for the partnership with Ika, with Daikin, with Schneider Electric, and knowledge sharing with Rewiring Aotearoa to make it easier for everyone. So on one side, we want to make sure that we promote solutions, and on the other side, we want to make sure that SMEs know where to go to find the information necessary to help with electrification and save money and save the environment at the same time. So it's on one side, we're going to have a series of events that we've started already last year in Whangarei, where we had 90 people showing up at the Hundertwasser Center, which was great. And then we have this webinar today with 120 people, and then we have a few more events coming throughout the year. So today we have Paul Bull from Ika. We've got Lauri Swigart from the Queenstown Electrification Accelerator. We have Aaron Edgecombe from Schneider Electrics, and we've got Dan Anderson from Zen Energy. So they all going to have a presentation around 10 minutes each. And so hopefully we can fit that within the hour that people are taking today. And then that will be followed by a Q&A. I'm going to ask a few questions, but you should also ask your questions. You've got a little button on your screen where there's a specific button for Q&A, and we going to choose a few questions that are recurrent and trying to answer them. And if we can't answer all the questions, we'll make sure that we'll provide you with a little packet after this meeting to give you all the answers as necessary. So I would like to invite Paul Bull to present. I'm going to stop sharing.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Paul Bull. I've been at Ika about 11 years. I manage Ika's business engagement program across the Motu, have 6 regional managers that help deliver that program with many of the medium to larger energy users and some supply side enablers, plus a couple of industry and sector association leads in the team to help us reach some 30 to 40,000 businesses. Lots of great speakers after me, so I'm going to focus on a few things that ECA can and has been doing since the beginning of ECA's existence that helps people with energy every day. Our current strategy has energy efficiency first, Energy Efficiency Conservation Authority, quite apt that it's the first part of our name, empowering energy users to control their energy and smart use of energy. And thirdly, accessing renewable energy, which ties in nicely with the opportunity to electrify your business going forward. The traditional model that ECA's had in the marketplace for the 30 odd years we've been in existence is an energy audit is a good way of looking how energy is currently being used and opportunities to reduce wastage. What we've typically seen over the years is, as the slide says, costs get too high. If you've got a reasonable size organisation, the CFO or the accountant, smaller business, person paying the bills or the business owner says, this isn't sustainable. An audit often gets instigated, identifies opportunities, the low cost, no cost stuff gets implemented. The cycle repeats itself, and typically ECA's experience is about every 5 years an enterprise will come to us looking for some support for an energy audit. And the cycle just keeps going on and on. What we'd really like to suggest is, while an energy audit's a good opportunity, and I'm going to cover off some self-help tools that might help you uncover some of those opportunities early on, it's actually important to bring others into the cart on that energy efficiency journey, and that can be the staff that you have in your business today. Just looking for those opportunities to make sure that there's not wastage of energy across your production floor or across your facility. The simple things like turning off the lights, turning off the heating, turning off the air compressor, or if the whole factory goes to a lunch break and it's shut down, make sure the conveyor belts aren't running when there's nothing on them. It's amazing how much you can actually reduce your energy spend by not wasting that energy. Certainly also helps when you're looking at swapping out fossil fuel using equipment to a renewable energy option that then enables you to right size the equipment based on the amount of energy that you actually need to use in your business, not a like for like replacement of that old kit that often is oversized. On our website, we have a lot of self-help tips because appreciate if you've got to bring a consultant in to do an energy audit or some energy systems optimization of your facilities, that does come at a cost. And often you've got some passionate people inside your organization looking to help and do some of that stuff. And so there's a lot of self-help material on our website. Through our sector associations, we've done collaboration with a number of associations, and on the tiles is energy efficiency and decarbonisation opportunities across those sectors. A lot of self-help guides, a lot of general information that helps you plan for energy efficiency, but also that transition away from fossil fuels, quite specific to your industry. Transport fuels has a significant impact on the carbon footprint of New Zealand, and the reliance on fossil fuels coming into New Zealand has a significant impact on the running cost of your vehicles. Again, lots of material on our website to help work through what some of that looks like. As the screen here suggests, maintaining your vehicle, I think it speaks for itself. Making sure the tyres are well inflated, not underinflated. Improving aerodynamics. It's amazing how many people leave a roof rack on or leave the extra storage bin on the roof and it's got nothing in it. It adds to the inefficiency or the drag coefficient of the vehicle and makes it more fuel inefficient, which means you're wasting fuel. Was thinking about this webinar last night as I was standing at the bus stop after I'd got off the train to do the last part of my journey home. In the bus before the one that I was going to jump on, sat and idled for 7 minutes. There's 7 well, maybe 6.5 minutes worth of wasted diesel while the vehicle's running, waiting to go off on its route. It's amazing if you're running your own delivery fleet, how often the vehicle gets left in idle when it's sitting in the warehouse ready to be loaded up. Yeah, again, waste of fuel that doesn't necessarily need to be burned. Yep, sure, I appreciate if you're running an old Eco Bedford, sorry, I am showing my age, you're probably concerned about whether it's going to restart. But if you've got a relatively modern truck or a relatively modern van in the fleet, then that shouldn't be the concern that it was 30 or 40 years ago when the TK Bedford was pride of place at the front of the fleet. ECA does also support through low emission heavy vehicle fund, grant funding support for low emission vehicle above 6 tonne. 5,999 tonne, whether that's fully battery electric or hydrogen or dual fuel hydrogen truck, and lots of great information again on there. If you've got a fleet of more than one or two vehicles, then looking at size of the fleet and how it's being used can also help drive some efficiencies, which also helps in making the right decision for vehicle replacement. Okay. I'll use the example if you're in Dunedin and you've got a pool car in your fleet and it never goes outside the confines of the Dunedin environment, and it's always returning back to base at the end of the day, or someone's taking it home and can plug it in. Battery electric vehicles have become cost comparative. We've seen a couple of vehicles come on the market in the last month, Dongfeng Box and the BYD Atto 1, both under $30,000, $29,990 plus on-road costs. Compare that to its internal combustion unit equivalent, where the Yaris is at $33,000. So definitely at price parity. All three are pretty well much the same size. All do the same job. Yes, some people will be going, I've got a bit of range anxiety, but that is about looking at how you're using the vehicle for what purpose. As I say, if I pick the Dunedin example and you're never going outside of the city, a vehicle with 250k range at 29,990, it's plenty of days running before you actually need to plug it in and recharge it. Probably one of the most common questions that the ECA team get asked these days, and look, Dan will tell you all the great stuff about solar, is solar going to work for my business? Again, we've got a really useful booklet, the one I'm showing on the right-hand side of the screen, commercial scale solar in New Zealand, has 12 or 13 businesses that have solar installed on their premise, and the commercial return that they have to work through in terms of the business case that makes it stack up. ECA sees that this is an evolving space, and we recently put a booklet out on demand flexibility in the New Zealand environment, that is switching power from peak times to not so peak times, and battery will have a part to play in that. We're not talking about switching off and not boiling the jug if you need hot water, or not having heating because it's the peak time, but it's about having a battery and being able to shift some of your load or take some of that peak off. And so as part of that play and start of understanding that information better, we've just recently announced, Minister Watts, Minister of Energy, last week announced a solar and battery demonstration program that we've been running on farms. So not solar farms, but solar on a farm, 10 different farm types across the Motu, and hoping to contract up 40 enterprises, which will give us a lot better insights and be able to, in coming period of time, demonstrate the value of solar and a battery, or just solar, or in some cases just a battery, to help make more informed and better decisions. And I know Dan's going to have a whole lot of stuff he wants to share in that space. I'm going to stop there. I could keep talking all day. I could take the whole slot, but looking forward to the Q&A.
Thank you, Paul. Fantastic. So obviously, heaps of information that can be available on the ECA website that we're going to share afterwards. We'll come with a few more questions um, later in the hour. The next speaker that I would like to invite to present would be Lauri Swigart from the Queenstown Electrification Accelerator.
Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry, I think my camera just takes a little while to warm up for some reason, but it is meant to be on. Anyway, I'll get started and then maybe you'll see my face halfway through. So yeah, I'm Lauri Swigart. I'm the Business Electrification Lead at the Queenstown Electrification Accelerator, the QEA. So we exist to accelerate the energy system of Queenstown Lakes with the aim of creating the 2050 energy system by 2030. So we're a non-profit and we work directly with businesses, communities, organisations and households to identify electrification opportunities, deliver innovative energy projects and develop business cases and resources that people need to electrify. So New Zealand is famous for its landscapes, but today I want to talk to you about a different kind of landscape, and that's our energy system. It's changing fast, and in that relies both risk and opportunity. So I'd like you to consider, is your business making smart moves to prepare for the energy transition? So whether you're in hospitality, construction, tourism, or anything in between, we all have one thing in common, and our businesses rely on energy. And energy costs have a direct impact on profitability. So when you think about your current energy mix, do you know what cost trajectory you are on? And do you know how to take control of this? So if you treat energy as a strategic lever and not just an overhead, you can lower costs, cut emissions, and build resilience. So let's get into these a bit further. So energy makes up 73% of global greenhouse gas emissions. So reducing fossil fuel use is one of the biggest levers that we can have for climate change. And the great news is that New Zealand has already crossed the electrification tipping point. So this means that many electric technologies, such as your fleet vehicles, heat pumps, cooking, for example, are now cheaper over their lifetime than their fossil fuel alternatives when you consider upfront costs as well. And then there's resilience. So can you operate your business when the power goes out during a storm or an earthquake, for example? Across New Zealand, outages are becoming more and more common and more disruptive as we keep seeing on the news. And even a short power outage could stop payments, shut down heating, cooking, or halt production, for example. So building resilience through electrification, on-site generation, and battery storage helps keep critical operations running and really protects your revenue when the grid can't. So we're facing a triple challenge. We've got rising energy prices, increasing need for resilience, and urgent climate action. And electrification is a key lever that we can take to battle these challenges. And a lot of the solutions are already here, as Paul mentioned. So solar lets you generate your own electricity. We've got batteries that let you store it, reducing peak charges and providing backup power. And then you can electrify your operations as well to cut long-term costs and emissions. And this is what controlling your energy future looks like. So it's generation, storage, and electrification working together to create a resilient, low cost, and low carbon business. And electrification also means major efficiency gains. So if we look at a few quick comparisons, for example, we've got cooking. So induction cooking is 80% more than gas cooking. And then hot water heat pumps, for example, are 300 to 400% efficient in comparison to gas hot water heating at 80%. The same goes for space heating. So you've got heat pumps that are 300 to 400% efficient. And then electric vehicles versus petrol or diesel. They're 21%, and then you've got 90% for electric vehicles, which just makes such a huge difference when you electrify any appliances and things like that, because it's going to give you lower operating costs. And when you couple this with electrification, with generating your own electricity, the benefits multiply. So this is just a quick diagram from Rewiring that shows when you buy electricity from the grid, you're paying for all the infrastructure behind it as well. So you're paying for the generation, distribution, the transmission of that. However, when you produce it yourself, you're bypassing those costs and also protecting yourself from any inflations within those costs as well. So just a few quick case studies that we've looked at down here in Queenstown to showcase the benefits of solar to begin with. So we carried out a business case for a hotel to get solar and found that they could actually save $42,000 a year and reduce their energy costs by 26% if they got solar, and reduce their emissions by 32 tons as well, which is pretty huge. And then looking at this for an office as well, they can reduce their energy costs by 45% and also achieve a return on investment from investing in solar of 104%. So there's huge benefits to be gained from this for all different kinds of businesses that we're seeing down here. So we're also working on some national innovation projects to unlock electrification further. So one of those things being solar for renters. So obviously, if you don't own your roof, it's quite difficult to invest in solar. But we're currently running a trial in collaboration with Octopus Energy to set up solar for renters, to enable landlords and tenants to share benefits of solar, and that's for commercial and residential properties. You can find out more information on our website, and you can also join the trial if you're interested in doing this for your business as well. One of the other projects that we're working on is vehicle to grid. So we're running this trial in collaboration with ECA. And basically, this allows electric vehicles to not only charge from the grid, but also give power back to the building and the grid when it's needed. So it's effectively turning your fleet into a set of mobile batteries, which is a really cool thing to do, which you definitely can't do from a petrol car. So for businesses, this can lower your energy costs by charging them when electricity is cheap and supplying power during peak prices. And it also provides backup power during outages, boosting resilience as well. So our vehicle to grid trial is helping prove how fleets can become strategic energy assets rather than just a transportation asset. So just on a final note, all the things that I've spoke about today, we've developed a wide range of resources and case studies to support businesses on their electrification journey, and this is all increasing over time as well. So these are all on our website if you'd like to take a look further. So yeah, treating your business's energy as a strategic lever is one of the smartest moves you can make moving forward. So to lower cost, reduce emissions, and build resilience. Thank you.
Thank you, Laurie. That's sharp and impactful. Thank you so much. There's a lot of work going on in Queenstown, and hopefully that's going to be successful trials that we can copy paste throughout the rest of the country. The next speaker that we have is Aaron Edgecombe from Schneider Electrics. I invite you to share your slides.
Thank you. Just give me 1 second. I'll get the screen up. Great messages there from Larry, and maybe stole a bit of my thunder here, but anyway, that's all good. We're on the same page. Just let me know when that screen comes up, okay? Thank you. Thanks, everyone. So Aaron Edgecombe, I'm the e-mobility lead for Schneider Electric New Zealand. And I have been with Schneider for about 11 years, took over the e-mobility role in April last year, and it's been an exciting journey, and I can see all of these things, great things happening around the country in terms of this. So today I want to just talk a bit about basically, is now the right time to transition your fleet to EV vehicles. We'll look at a really small case study from one of our electricians that works with us. And then we'll talk a bit about how do you manage that charging and infrastructure and transitioning your business to an EV fleet and what are some of the challenges around that. So a bit to get through, I'll try and be as quick as I can. But I want to just provide a bit of background for a start in terms of, I guess, the transitional technology, which EVs undoubtedly are. So the last time we saw this kind of probably transformational technology in transportation was in the Wayback Machine. So I've got a couple of photos here to share. So this first one is Fifth Avenue in New York in 1900. And you can see on here, hopefully you can see that all right, there's a lot of horses and buggies, and then there's one automobile there. So this guy would undoubtedly be a definition of an early adopter. And then if we jump forward just 13 years later, this is Fifth Avenue in New York in 1913. And you can see the street is full of motor vehicles, and you can see one horse and buggy left. So I guess the whole point of bringing these slides to the slide deck here is really just to highlight, I guess, the when is the right time to do it. So if you have that sort of early adoption phase, you're the guy there that's got the one automobile in 1900. Obviously, you've got something that's probably really expensive, highly likely that it was unreliable. It would have been really hard to service and maintain because the skills wouldn't have been there, and the infrastructure wouldn't have been built out to refuel it. But just 13 years later, obviously that's all changed. So all of the equipment has now got to be there to service those things. They've probably become cheaper. They've probably become more reliable, and you can now service and maintain them easily. And you've probably got a lot more options than you would have had back in the day. So somewhere in between 1900 and 1913, there would have been a good time to actually transition. If you were in business back then, it would have been a good time to transition to make sure that you remained competitive by, making sure that you were making the most of the money you were spending on that transportation, and obviously making your business more effective and efficient. So if we think about that in terms of electric vehicles and where we are today, the global markets we look at, you're seeing a widespread adoption of battery electric vehicles. We're seeing now, as Lowry and Paul were talking about, there's a huge number of options in terms of electric vehicles. They're hitting price parity. The quality is unquestionably excellent. They've got all the features you'd expect from any ICE vehicle, and in some cases more. And not only that, you've got much lower total cost of ownership for those vehicles. But if you're in any doubt as to whether or not it's a good idea to transition to EVs, think about it this way. New Zealand doesn't make vehicles. We import them, and the nations that we import them from are undoubtedly adopting battery electric vehicles at a really high rate. So you can see two of the key ones there, Europe and China. So China is now about 70% of the new vehicles sold there are battery electric, and in Europe it's over 50%. So in Norway there is the outstanding one, but that's a whole different story, and that from an oil exporting nation, I might add. So you can see, from their point of view, they've made a choice around battery electric vehicles versus the using their own product that they're selling to the rest of the world. So in terms of that, yes, you can say that I think it's pretty clear we're at that inflection point. Now is a good time to electrify your fleet. Undoubtedly, you will be able to find a vehicle that's battery electric that will do what you want it to do, and probably 90% of cases. There might be a few edge cases where perhaps the range might still be an issue, but even that is probably unlikely. So just moving on, just to look at a quick case study. So we've got one of our electricians here. This is Dylan at Top Sparks. So he's got a small electrical business. He's got a team of 6. He's got a couple of vans on the road. I think 3 vans and a ute on the road. And he was looking at how does he go about saving some money on the running costs, because they, as you can see from there, it was $42,000 a year just in fuel and maintenance, and fuel alone was $150 per vehicle per week. So what he's done is he's just transitioned out of the diesel vans as they came up for the end of their lifespan, and he's bought now a couple of EVs. He's installed home chargers for his staff, and we're going to talk a bit more about that. And then he's got an app along with that he can keep visibility of and tracking for charging and costs involved. So in terms of that now, what does it look like for savings for Dylan and his business? So again, super simple one here, easy to look at. His weekly running costs have gone from basically $150 in fuel down to just $40 being in electricity, and around about $70 to $80 a week if you include the road user charges. So it's around about 50% cheaper than running a diesel vehicle. Much less servicing and maintenance required on an electric vehicle. You don't have all the moving parts. There's no oil. There's no liquids go in them. You essentially have, the things that move in an electric vehicle are the wheels and the electric motor. And electric motors are incredibly reliable. So much fewer moving parts and lower upkeep. In terms of the charging, the vans are always been sitting idle at night. So during that time when they were otherwise unutilized anyway, they're now topping up and charging so that they're fully charged each morning for his team to go out and do their day's work. And they very rarely have to use public charging. So maybe if they've got a job, they've got to go one side of the city to the other, for example, then maybe that they might have to do a top up during the day. But he's found it's very, very rarely needed. And then he's got the app to keep track of basically the charging and the kilowatt hours, etc. used. So he can feed all that back into his business, which also gives him then a level of carbon reporting because he can base that on on the electricity versus the diesel. So that was just a bit of a joke one there. If you go back to the guy in 1900. I'm sure that would have been the conversation that he would have been having is, hey, I've got this fancy new thing, and everyone would have been, hey, but it's rubbish because you can't charge it anywhere, you can't refill it, you can't get it maintained, etc., etc. So that has undoubtedly changed in New Zealand. Yes, we still need to build out probably more of the public charging infrastructure, but by and large for business use cases, that's not really what you're using. You tend to be using more the charging at home and or the business charging. So I guess let's have a quick look at that in terms of some of the pitfalls or things that you might need to think about when you're doing this. So Schneider Electric's going through this transition as well. So we're transitioning our fleet both in New Zealand and globally to electric vehicles. With a goal to be entirely electric by 2030. In New Zealand, we have currently transitioned around 30% of our vehicles now to electric vehicles. And I guess so some of the things that come up when you're doing this is how are you going to charge them? So is it going to be convenient for people? How are they going to go about it? So what we've had to do is we've brought everyone along on the journey. It's a conversation. You've got to start with those in your business that are maybe early adopters and get them to help you bring along the rest of the employees, especially the one guy that's like, I'm never going to have an EV, I like my ICE vehicle, etc. So with the home charging, that's absolutely your best option if you can do it. It's typically the cheapest way you can do it. However, it's not going to work for all employees because they might be limited in terms of do they own their own home? Does their home actually, is it suitable in terms of the wiring or what kind of upgrades might be needed to be able to support an EV? So those are the kind of considerations you've got to have. But ultimately, if you can do at-home charging, yep, it's the best thing to do. Undoubtedly, for most businesses, you're also going to require some kind of work charging. So being able to charge at a depot, it's going to depend on how your vehicles are used. But if they come to the office and they sit at the office for a few hours every other day or every few days or whatever, then that's an opportunity for them to be topped up. And then, of course, you can have the public charging for those rare occasions that it's really needed. So I guess those are some of the fundamental things to just think about. There is a paper that we collaborated on with Drive Electric and that is available to anyone to download from the Drive Electric site, which basically details really that fleet transition in quite a lot of detail. We talk about a lot of issues in there, but essentially, yeah, if you can transition your fleet to EV, absolutely, it's going to save you money. I think we're at that point where that's not even a question now. It's a fact, and you've just then got to think about, I guess, what's the best way to go about charging it, and how you use those vehicles will probably determine what your best course is. Likely though to be some form of home charging and some form of depot charging. And then, yeah, like I say, it's a conversation you've got to have with your staff. Not everybody wants to drive an EV, but you can bring them along for the journey, and you can make it fun. Give people a chance to actually experience these. If I had everyone in a room, I'd have done the question thing at the start and said to everyone, put your hand up if you've actually driven an EV. And I'm sure there would be, even in a crowd that's probably as aware of electrification as this one, there would still be a lot of people that haven't yet had that experience. And I can tell you from my own experience that I will get in the EV every time now over an ICE vehicle because it's a much better experience, along with being a much greener and cheaper experience at the same time. Happy to answer any questions around any of that individually or afterwards during the Q&A. So yeah, look forward to hopefully a bit of engagement afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aaron. No, that was great. I think you've touched something that was really interesting, that it's not only about proving that it's cheaper and easier and more efficient to go electric, but it has also to do with attitudes, with mentality. So there's the psychology that needs to be addressed. So that was a good point. Thank you. Right, so the next speaker that we have on the panel is Dan Anderson from Zen Energy. He's going to present us a few slides as well.
Thanks for that, Christopher. And to all the other speakers, yeah, fascinating. Well, hopefully I'll sort of plug in the final piece of the puzzle here with solar. And to introduce myself, I'm Dan, the sales manager for Zen Energy. Who is Zen? We're a Kiwi-owned solar pioneer. We've been around for 13 years. We actually started out mostly with residential solar systems, but we've seen the trajectory of commercial solar going crazy really in the past year or two, as some of these critical issues of electrification and particularly resilience, are starting to become much more mainstream in the national conversation. So our purpose is to place power back in the hands of Kiwi, creating an independent, sustainable and resilient energy future. Today we've completed over 1,200 projects on homes and businesses, communities as well, and we're really seeing that commercial portfolio growing at quite a pace now. We've completed over 60 commercial installations in the last 5 years, and 21 of those in the last year, with 12 ongoing as we speak. So busy times for us and our 20-strong team. Yeah, we were greatly honoured by the Sustainable Energy Association last year in the recognition of that growth, being awarded their best medium solar business in New Zealand. So, solar, does it make sense for SMEs? Well, in short, yes. And how so? Well, there's many different sides to it these days. And really, there's been a lot of talk around resilience. And that is really the key concern for most of our commercial clients these days. There's many different sides to resilience. Larry talked earlier about that sort of continuity of power. That's a really key concern. That can be solved through batteries and the improving technology in the battery space, as an example. But really, a lot of it comes back straight to numbers. The key question of most of our customers is, well, how much is it going to save me? How much am I going to save, and how long is it going to take to pay back this system? So bill reduction and ROI are the really two main considerations. We're seeing operating costs being reduced by as much as 80% these days with our clients, and typical paybacks of around 4 to 5 years for most. That's been helped massively by the government's investment boost scheme, along with obviously depreciating of those assets over time. So there's a lot of different structures which can help improve on even just the savings that you're able to achieve off your bills each year. More and more, though, people are starting to look to the sustainability side of solar. It almost seems a given, but it hasn't necessarily been a focus for many businesses in New Zealand, but more and more so as obviously financing structures become more incentivized for sustainability. So that is becoming a key focus for many of our clients. The other one is gas pricing, and there's been a lot of headlines around that in the past couple of months. So with people electrifying away from gas, naturally that puts more pressure on the electricity grid and on obviously the pricing of power as well. So solar is a way of mitigating for that increase in power bill through electrification. So we'll look at a typical commercial outcome. Most solar sizing on commercial roofs is between 100 to 500 kilowatt sizing. And as we talked about, the payback period typically landing around 4 to 5 years these days, can be up to 7 if you have very sharp rates of power, often for very large businesses with exceptionally good terms. But again, with contracts rolling over, many of our clients in the past year or so have seen 80 to 100% increases in their power bills when those energy terms are rolling over. So this is a key concern for businesses that's trying to manage the costs of their power bills. Rate of returns are typically between 15 to 25%. It says here typical reductions of 20 to 40%. I'd say that's been historically where things have landed. But again, with battery technology coming on apace, many of our commercial clients are now going for battery solutions and able to achieve even upwards of 80% bill reductions. Typical lifespan is another question. How long is it going to last? Do I have to maintain it? Well, the panels themselves have a 30-year warranty, so they are going to last well out beyond 30 years. With inverters and batteries, that's typically around 10 to 15 years. So you would expect to invest a little bit halfway through that investment cycle in upgrading your inverters and battery systems. So a natural next question is, can solar benefit both landlords and tenants? And it's a common misconception that if you don't own your building, you can't get solar. We have a number of clients who are tenants in buildings, and there's a lot of different structures that can be set up to help tenants get the benefits of solar. Or for those benefits to go hand in hand between the landlord and the tenant. So the benefits to landlords naturally are increasing rental yields on their properties, meeting ESG or Green Star credentials, and attracting top-tier tenants. Naturally, if you can attract a great tenant and they want to stay in your location, there's a massive benefit to that. For tenants, well, it's that resilience, bringing the power bills down, making your power bill more manageable and more importantly, predictable as things change with the energy market over time. Some specific case studies on the left-hand side here, our customer Metal Built, based in Auckland. They've made considerable savings they're an interesting case because they're a long-term tenant in this particular location, and they actually made it a stipulation of their contract renewal with their landlord that they must have solar. They were clever in the way that they went about that conversation with their landlord, and it went hand in hand here with the landlord. The landlord did choose to actually do a roof renewal, and that worked in really nicely, obviously, with this upgrade for metal build. On the landlord side, a great example of this is our relationship with James Kirkpatrick Group. We've recently installed solar for their L'Oreal building, currently installing on Cane Road as well, with 2 other projects on the way. And the focus here is on meeting those Green Star credentials, specifically the Green Star 6 accreditation. So James Kirkpatrick Group, obviously, they're a leader in this space. And they're showing leadership in driving forward these sustainability objectives, and that's a massive benefit to them moving forward with stronger tenancies and more resilient buildings. So natural next question is, well, is this going to work for me? How does it work for my business? The way we go about looking into that is doing what's called a solar feasibility assessment. This is a little bit different to just providing a quote. With larger projects, we typically want to de-risk the process first. We'll be able to provide a quick answer on how much it will likely be for a range of different sizes or outcomes for a business. But here we're looking at specific outcomes. So is it about de-risking that sort of exposure to energy risk in your business? Is it about continuity of power? Do you have specific backup objectives? So that's what the feasibility is about. And then from there, we progress with site visits and certifications. Naturally, there are some barriers to large-scale solar implementation. So engineering certifications are typically gained up front, network approval, and obviously looking at electrical infrastructure, potential constraints on site. So we do all of that up front before progressing to a firm price quotation, and that way we de-risk the project and ensure that there's not going to be any unforeseen changes as we move through that process. Naturally, then that moves on to installation, and we can wrap around an operational maintenance package as part of the ongoing maintenance of these systems. That pretty much sums it up for me, but yeah, keen to take some questions and see how we can help.
Making sure that I'm not on mute. Thank you very much, Dan. That was fantastic. I'm glad that you covered the relationship between tenant, property owner, and installer. That there are some good benefits for everyone involved. So it's a triple win situation there. Great. Now, in terms of questions, I come across a lot of businesses who are waiting for their machines or cars to reach the end of life before they start switching. Paul, what would you say to a business who want to hang on to their gas boiler or gas heating or petrol cars, and I say, well, we still have 10 or 15 years to go on that machine. Should I wait another 15 years, or should I do the transition now?
An interesting question, and a lot of work that EEC has done over the last 5 to 7 years, particularly in the larger energy space, has been looking at how to decarbonise or a decarbonisation pathway for those businesses. And the emphasis typically looks at the assets that are closest to the end of life. I think the challenge that any business has in trying to make that decision, particularly say with a boiler, is if it's got 15 years of useful life, it's probably still got some value on the books. And so even in swapping the assets out, you've got to take a write down on that asset. I guess the challenge is if you're burning in the South Island LPG, and price keeps pushing up all the time, then it's like, am I going to stay in business versus what's the alternate cost to switch away? Or if you're a food manufacturing business and your sellers are asking for green credentials, then there's other drivers other than just the value of that asset on your book. And so it is an economic business decision as to what that point is. I think vehicles become a little bit easier because if you're running a vehicle in your business, then you're typically turning it over in a 3 to 5 year time period anyway. And so doing that fleet optimization to make sure you've got the right number of vehicles in the fleet, and then as we saw in the example, taking that first step and introducing a low carbon option, which typically, if it's a light passenger vehicle, is going to be battery electric into the fleet as part of that renewal process, but thinking about it ahead of time rather than the day before you need to replace the vehicle out.
Thanks for that answer there, Paul. I came across this financing vehicle is called sustainable financing, and they apparently help those businesses out who do use gas or carbon, and they help with decarbonization by giving them loans to be able to change the machinery. Do you have other examples of where SMEs can find the money to do that?
Starting to see an emergence of heat as a service or lease to own on the likes of boilers. Traditionally, it hasn't been largely uptaken in New Zealand, and that's probably been, the last 10 to 20 years we've had relatively low energy prices, and so that hasn't necessarily been a driver. We've certainly starting to see an emergence of that and a number of players offering that into the market. But other than the traditional bank or the likes of a sustainable finance centre, I'm not sure that there's a list available yet. ECA's trying to work on a list, but we're probably a couple of months from going live on our website.
Thank you, Paul. We'll keep obviously everyone up to date. We're getting where to find that. Lauri, you've been working a lot one-on-one with businesses in Queenstown, and obviously you know what's happening in the field. What is typically the barriers for businesses to embrace electrification? What do you come across?
I think the main thing is probably cost, or having trust that if you make an investment, then it is actually going to, reduce your operating costs and it's going to work out. The business case is going to work out. So yeah, like QEA played a big role in making sure people have confidence behind those decisions. So kind of going through the economics behind that, and then creating case studies for people to realize, like, for their kind of business archetypes, what kind of benefits they can have. Obviously, it's just really dependent on the business, which is quite difficult. When we first started, we were thinking, oh, we'll just make, a couple of resources and it'll be really scalable for all kinds of businesses. But everybody's situation is really different. So it is really good to kind of, investigate like the key factors of like how much are you paying for power, what kind of things are actually like taking the energy that you use, and then what's kind of like the transition plan for each one and which one makes financial sense. So yeah, it does really vary, but I think cost is probably the biggest one, and then awareness of like the benefits you can actually get from doing it as well.
Thank you, Lauri. That's great. Aaron, you were talking about you were showing how the uptake of EVs in Europe and in China is really through the roof. What's happening in New Zealand? Why are we lagging? What are we not getting?
So I think there's probably a few different things, but one of the key things, I suppose, is there's government support it was there early on. It's been taken away. When you're transitioning, obviously, to to new tech, new energy fleet, it's important, and I guess those policy settings by the government have an effect, and we've seen them take away the clean car contribution, and they've changed the clean car standards, the discount on or the cost of importing non-green vehicles or higher carbon producing vehicles to lower carbon emission ones. They've taken away a lot of that benefit now from importing. So that's definitely having an effect. I think the other thing is we haven't really seen the proliferation of options until very recently. So there are now a lot of cars, a lot of full battery electric vehicles on the road that are high quality, that have got great range, they're really good quality cars, and they're coming in now at the right price point. And I think that's probably been the other significant factor, is that because we haven't had that government support, we needed the market to actually get to that point where it became affordable for those vehicles to be on the road. So it makes sense now. Effectively, the total cost of ownership is now it's making sense for businesses and individuals to have a battery electric vehicle versus an ICE vehicle. And yeah, I think from my own experience, there's still a huge amount of people that have yet to even experience. They've probably been in an electric vehicle at some point now, a lot of people, but there's still a huge number of people that have never driven one or had that experience of what it's like to drive an EV. So yeah, I think that that delay is probably largely down to, I guess, the options available and the policy settings. But I think we're actually getting into a point now where the policy settings are mattering less, and the options are kind of taking over and putting us in a good space to see these start to proliferate in New Zealand.
Thanks for clarifying that, Aaron. Now I'm going to put the next question to Dan. It comes from our attendees, Dave. He's mentioned that he's got 6 years left on their lease on the building. Have you seen any models where landlord shares the cost of the solar installation?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one, that one. Naturally, it comes down to who owns the system and who gets the benefit. So typically, it's kind of a contracting issue, really. If you had 6 years left, I'd say that you would certainly see the benefit within that time. And then typically, most of the tenant-landlord relationships that would have an agreement that the solar asset would be sold over to the landlord at the market rate of the solar at the time. So that's probably a cleaner way of looking at that.
Laurie, you've got your hand up?
Yeah, just to jump in there as well. So I mentioned in my presentation about the solar for renters trial that we have going on at the minute, and that's for households and businesses. But the model with that is basically that the landlord invests in a solar system, and then it's sold back to the tenant of whatever tenant that would be in the property. And there's two ways of doing that. So it's fixed price, so you could have it within a fixed price within your rental agreement, for example, or we're actually working with Octopus Energy so you sign up to Octopus Energy as your retailer for that building, for example, and then the tenant then pays a lower rate than the grid for any energy they consumed from the solar system, and then that goes back to the landlord, and the landlord earns the export as well. So that's just something that we're getting set up and trialing at the moment. And yeah, if you are looking at that, you can sign up to our trial on our website as well.
Yeah, that's really good context, Larry, and there's quite a lot happening in this space right now. A lot of trials underway, and Electricity Authority are bringing about. Well, I've just released a paper on multiple trading relationships. So it basically comes down to who owns the meter, and how does the power go back to the grid. So there's a lot happening in this space right now. So I'd say watch the space.
Fantastic. I think we're going to have to stop the conversation and the questions now, but we are going to take note of all the questions that have been put in the chat and in the Q&A. And I will follow up with everyone who has registered and provide them with answers, with some information about how to electrify, where to find funding, where to find the numbers, the proof, where the proof is in the pudding, the case studies, and so on. So that's what we want to achieve is making sure that people make the right decisions for themselves, because I think what we heard today, it's not kind of a blanket deal. And it is a case-by-case scenario where you need to do a bit of an investigation, but I believe in most cases, that seems to be the way to go. So on this, I'm just going to share upcoming events. That's not sharing yet. So tomorrow we're going to be at Daikin. They've going to welcome us in the morning between 9 and 11 at 30 Bowden Road. If you haven't registered yet for tomorrow, I think it's too late. It's already 60 people there. We have a wait list. Okay, so we have a wait list. You can put yourself on the wait list. If someone drops off, then you might be lucky to come and visit. Another one that's going to be interesting is going to be the visit of Treadlight in Cambridge on the 11th of March. And that's the case where Treadlight actually bought the solar to put on a building that they don't own. But if they are to move away, they will then sell it on to the property owner at the market rate. So that's already a case where that actually happened. So they wanted to buy it for themselves, and the property owner allowed them to do so. And then we're going to have another Electrify business in Tauranga on the 21st of April, and that's going to be at Devon Plastics. I think Dan Anderson is probably familiar with that one. And then we have further Electrify events planned for Wellington and Christchurch, and potentially another one in Hamilton. And so there's obviously a huge interest in electrification. So we want to go out there and trying to reach the regions and getting as many people on board as possible to accelerate that transition. I'm going to close this session, but not to worry. We're going to follow up with the recording, with information. Check our website, check our Electrify directory, support SBN, list your solutions on our directory so we can promote the good work that you're doing. But for today, I'm going to close with the karakia saying, Unihia, unihia, unihia ki te u tapunui, kia watea, kia mama, te nako. Te tinana, te wairua I te ara tangata, koiara e ongo, whakaira a ke kirunga, kia tina, uye, tai kie. Thanks everyone, and see you at the next event. Bye.